Hello and welcome to Step Up World, the official broadcast of the Global Climate Action Summit. I'm Rajesh Merchandani, your host, and in the next hour or so, and with your help, we'll be bringing the summit to the world and the world to the summit. We'll bring you all the news, interviews, we'll showcase some of the actions that people everywhere are taking to protect our planet. We'll also have some practical tips on how we can all step up and how we can tell our leaders that they have to step up too. Coming up on this show, we'll hear from the front lines of climate change with the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. We'll be talking with the scientist, Dr. Jane Goodall, about why we need to protect the world's forests, not just for wildlife, but also for humans. And we'll also be hearing from her about why activism, including protests around this summit, are important for climate action and for climate ambition as well. We'll also be hearing from plenty of young people from all around the world, and we'll have on this stage, we'll have teen TV star Aiden Gallagher, who's also an ambassador for the United Nations Environment Programme, and we'll be talking to him about why and how he is stepping up for climate action too. We have a live chef demonstration as well. If we take a look over there, we can see our chef over there. He's getting ready to teach us how we can all cook more sustainably. But you know what? Most important is that we don't want to be having this conversation just in these four walls. We want you to join in, and we know that many of you already are. So to tell us where you all are from and also how to get involved, let's throw it over to our social station and talk to our social media correspondent, Chandler Green. Chandler.
Thanks, Rajesh, and thank you to everyone who is tuning in right now. I'm looking online, and it's really exciting to see people watching from all over. So I'm going to give some shout out to some of our viewers. We have Kevin McCarthy from British Columbia, Canada. Thank you for watching. Val Vidal, who is an atmospheric scientist in Mexico. Cees Steendich, who is in the Netherlands right now. And all the way in Fiji, we have Thelma Young, who's joining us live here in San Francisco. So thank you all for tuning in live. We want you to be involved. You can join the conversation online by tweeting me at UN Foundation using the hashtag StepUp2018 and GCAS2018. Back to you, Rajesh.
Okay, Chandler, thank you very much. We'll be returning to Chandler on our social station throughout the show. We said that we're going to bring you all the news. So we're a few hours into the Global Climate Action Summit here on day one. We've already seen some announcements from businesses, from governments, from members of civil society. The whole event started off with some musical performances and the Mayor of San Francisco, our host city, London Breed, opening up and talking about bold climate action for the city, and talking about efforts to achieve 100% renewable energy and adopt an innovative infrastructure. Let's take a look at her. Does anybody know what the name of this choir is?
By the year 2030, we are committed to 4 major initiatives here in San Francisco. Cutting our landfill waste in half, decarbonizing all new buildings, achieving 100% renewable energy, and continuing to issue more green bonds to finance critical infrastructure that's desperately needed to combat climate change. Today, thank you.
That was San Francisco Mayor London Breed talking about what the city here is doing. And before that, we heard a choir singing Michael Jackson's Earth Song to kick off the summit. Now, if you're following the summit on social media, you'll know there's a lot of conversation that's about the need to do more from all players. That's in fact what Step Up World is about. But business is a major constituent here at the summit, and we've heard some pledges from members of the business community. There's one from Starbucks, first of all. We heard a major announcement from Starbucks President and CEO Kevin Johnson. He's announced his goal to make Starbucks the #1 company in the world with a sustainable platform from origin to end product. Let's hear a little bit more about that.
Well, today we're announcing that, in addition to the journey that we've been on, we now have launched what we call a greener store framework. In addition to building stores with LEED criteria and LEED certification, we're now extending it to how we operate those stores. Things that really focus on renewable energy that's used in our stores, water stewardship, the things that we're doing to better manage and reduce waste, and it's all driven with the aspiration to be the #1 company in the world with a sustainable platform from origin, working with farmers, the entire supply chain, to the stores and the actual end product that we deliver. And so we're very excited about the opportunity that brings.
So that was Starbucks President and CEO Kevin Johnson. We also heard, again on the private sector front, from Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, who together with Mission 2020, a non-profit organisation, and 21 other major companies, announced a commitment named, fittingly, the Step Up Declaration. Let's hear from Mark about that.
That are going to decarbonize, and they will harness the power of the fourth industrial revolution to reduce emissions across all of our economic sectors. We're calling it the Step Up Declaration. The Step Up Declaration because we're stepping up with the tangible commitment to reach climate turning point by 2020. And we want all of you, we want every company to join us.
Mark Benioff from Salesforce there on the plenary stage, which is literally just above us where we are here in the Step Up World studio. And the whole point of the Global Climate Action Summit, as I've been saying, is to bring together thousands of people from all walks of life. And one of the most prominent speakers that's here at the moment is Dr. Jane Goodall. Now, as many of you will know, over several decades, she's become famous for her work to understand and protect chimpanzees, humankind's closest relatives, one of them. She studied them in their natural forest homes, and that's given her a real appreciation of the importance of forests for both wildlife, for humans, and for the climate as well. She's here at the summit as a forest advocate and a UN messenger for peace, and I spoke to her earlier. Jane Goodall and Mr. H, it's a pleasure to have you both on the show with us. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. H. Now, Jane, you've served as a UN messenger for peace for the last 16 years, and of course, for many, many years, you have been at the leading edge of science and understanding chimpanzees, humankind's closest relative, and specifically in their tropical forest homes. But I want to ask you, how do you wrap all of those together? And then I think, you've advocated for peace and prosperity for people and planet. So how do you feel that climate action threatens peace? And how can bold climate action help us ensure a more peaceful, safe and prosperous world for everyone?
Well, first of all, we live on a planet with finite natural resources and various ecosystems. And the forest ecosystem is one of the most important. It's one of the great lungs of the world, along with the ocean. And it absorbs carbon dioxide, it releases oxygen, it provides many what they call services, although I don't think the forest plans it that way, but it prevents too much soil erosion, provides clean water. Mm-hmm. And in all of these ways, we need the forest desperately. And, there are various things going on in the planet which hinders our protection of the forest. One is poverty. Mm-hmm. If you're really poor, you've got to grow food, you're going to cut down the last trees because you have to, or to make charcoal. And in addition to that, the unsustainable lifestyles of so many other people. In some areas, we're using up the natural resources like forests quicker than nature can replenish them. And then, in addition to that, there's the release of carbon dioxide as the forests are destroyed. And the more that we degrade the environment, the more poverty, the more fighting there is. And so it ties in very much with, we'll never have world peace if we run out of water, for example.
Yeah, and that, everything you said is embodied by the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Everything is linked, and climate underpins everything.
Yeah, and the rainforest teaches you how interconnected everything is, and you see that each little species has a role to play, however insignificant it may seem, and it plays its part in this great tapestry of life.
And was that a revelation for you when you were studying chimps, in forests? You suddenly realize this, or over a period of time, you begin to get an appreciation of the interconnectedness of everything in rainforests?
Yes, I think it came gradually, But, you know, something else, after I'd finally won the trust of the chimps and wasn't so worried about getting to understand them before the money ran out, then I began to feel, you know, there's also a sense of a great spiritual power in the forest. And I think it feeds our souls. It also protects biodiversity. It's home to so many different amazing species of animals. And then there are the forest trees, the medicinal plants, and for the indigenous people whose home the forest is in so many cases. There's all their spiritual places, their sacred places.
And you know, we've heard during the Global Climate Action Summit, we have heard from members of indigenous communities from around the world as well. And you know, you're bringing a message about forests to the summit, but I wanted to get an understanding from you of, you know, what have you seen that's actually told you that people are stepping up, not just to protect the forest, but to protect the climate more generally? What's encouraging you?
Well, for one thing, the demonstrations out here today, more and more people are becoming aware. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's very inspirational, you know, we're bombarded by bad news of the harm we're doing to the planet, to the forest, and it's true. But at the same time, because I'm traveling 300 days a year everywhere, I'm meeting incredible people who are working really hard and inspiring others to protect the forest, like the indigenous people who risk their lives to protect their forests, but other people too, working to restore forests. I've found some incredible examples in China, for example. Mm-hmm. And so putting all these good news stories together, I feel is really important, because if you only hear doom and gloom, you give up hope. If we lose hope, especially if our young people lose hope, we may as well give up. Mm.
And so the activism that is surrounding this summit today, that is a really important voice for you in this growing global movement for greater climate action.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm spending an enormous amount of my time working on a youth program, our Roots and Shoots program, which began with 12 students, high school students in Tanzania in '91. It's now in nearly 80 countries. We have members from kindergarten, university, and everything in between. Main message, everything that we do, each one of us, every day, makes some impact. And we can choose what sort of impact we're going to make. So each group chooses 3 projects to make the world better. 1 to help people, 1 to help animals, 1 to help the environment. And running through that is a theme of we need to learn to live in harmony with the natural world, but also with each other. We need to learn to respect other people from other nations, other cultures, other religions. You know, we just need more respect.
And I think you may have answered this last question actually already, but it comes to us from social media, from Instagram, from Trevor Gowan in New York City. Lots of questions for you on social media, by the way, but here's just one of them. He just wants to know, you know, how can young people use their creativity to change the world and to step up for the planet?
Well, as young people get to understand the problems, our job is to empower them to feel that they can make a difference as individuals. That's what our program's all about. Mm-hmm. And we try to bring together the Roots and Shoots youth leaders, the older students, and put them together in a room. And it's absolutely amazing to see how filled with energy they are when they have the power to choose what they want to do. And of course, all around the planet, we have young people planting trees, planting mangroves to try and protect the coast from this rising ocean level due to climate change. Okay. And young people actually do understand that climate change is real.
They do.
It's not a Chinese hoax.
Absolutely.
And we can see it and feel it in the heat and the violence and more frequent hurricanes and tornadoes and so on.
All right, well, Dr. Goodall and Mr. H, it's been a pleasure to have you on Step Up World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Jane Goodall there. She was a big hit in the studio when she came in, as I'm sure you can appreciate. Also, coming here as a forest advocate, a scientist and a UN messenger of peace, reminding us that the Global Climate Action Summit is designed to celebrate action taking place at all levels, regions, cities, states, businesses, communities, all levels below national governments. And by showcasing the growing global movement at these levels, we hope to spur governments themselves to do more. Now, here in the United States, there is a growing bipartisan coalition of state governors that's stepping up to accept the climate challenge. They're called the US Climate Alliance, and one of them is Hawaii's Governor, David Ige, who joins me now. Governor, great to have you on Step Up World. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Now, the summit's been hearing from leaders of island nations, and in fact, we'll have the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, on the show later on. Hawaii understands their experiences all too well, but as part of your plan to respond, you're aiming to make Hawaii the first US state to go 100% renewable in terms of energy. How are you going to do that?
Well, I think it's a couple of different things. We see the technology giving us many opportunities. We have an abundance of natural resources, so clearly we have access to solar, we have access to wind power, we have access to geothermal. We have a couple of pilots working on wave energy and generating energy from our ocean. So we're pretty confident that our natural resources will give us access to more than adequate generation. The challenge, as we know, is that many of those renewable energy sources is intermittent, and it's about being able to generate and capture the energy when it's available, storing it, and then delivering it to the home when the consumer wants it. That's the big challenge.
And that's great. It's going to be great for Hawaii in terms of making you kind of sustainable in your own energy needs.
Sure.
You're doing your part for the planet as well. How important is it that small economies, smaller economies like Hawaii, let's say, in a globe, compared to the globe, compared to the world, that you're contributing and that others should as well?
I do think that as an island community, we see the impacts of global warming more vividly each and every day. I came from a brush with Hurricane Olivia, Tropical Storm Olivia, and we are seeing more hurricanes and tropical storms through our islands. We've had more severe weather events in the last 2 years than we've had in hundreds of years. Severe rainstorms, excessive flooding. So I think as a community, we see the impact of global warming and then are more motivated to take action sooner rather than later. And I do think that that is the message that we get from island communities. I have been working with Okinawa and Jeju in Korea, Okinawa, Japan, as a trilateral partnership to share notes, to talk about the challenges we all face as island communities. And for the state of Hawaii, our commitment to clean renewable energy is more than just a commitment to energy. It really is about transforming our economy. We import oil to drive most of the electricity generated in islands today. That means that we send out of state $4 billion a year in an $83 billion economy. So significant portion leaves the state, creates jobs elsewhere.
Want to bring it right back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So part of our commitment to renewable energy is to keep that investment in our islands to create jobs here, and it creates a better environment for everyone. Yeah. And I don't think that anybody understands, how beautiful a place Hawaii is, but I think more importantly, how fragile it is. We have the most endangered species on the planet in terms of plant as well as animals, and we see the impacts of global warming on our native ecosystems and the tremendous impact that creates.
Okay, well, Governor David Ige of Hawaii, thank you for explaining all of that to us and inspiring us with your action as well on Step Up World. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Now, to say that Christiana Figueres was instrumental in making the Paris Agreement happen is not an exaggeration. At the time, she was the head of the UNFCCC, the UN's body guiding negotiations toward the climate accords. You probably know her, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. She helped bring a huge number of different voices to the table, including national and regional governments, mayors, businesses, faith communities, activists, and many others. Together, they reflected global ambition from all levels and spurred world leaders to make the deal. She now runs Mission 2020, which seeks to bend the curve on emissions by 2020 in order to protect the most vulnerable and help advance global progress for everyone. And she joined me earlier. Christiana Figueres, as the former head of the UNFCCC, that pretty much built the Paris Agreement, and now as the head of Mission 2020, what do you think is the message that this summit is sending out to world leaders and to the world?
I think the message that is going out is actually a two-part message. The first is, it is absolutely clear that we have to address climate change. And it's very clear that in order to do so, we need to stay on course with respect to the direction, but increase the scale and the speed. So that's one message. But the other very, very heartening message is, in fact, that there are several sectors that are already on an exponential growth curve of progress. And so we already have evidence for the fact that it is possible to, in particular in this century where we have all the technology at our hands, to not have linear but actually exponential progress. And that, I think, is a very heartening message. It's also a challenge, because what it means is progress as linear is very 5 minutes ago. We have to let that concept go and understand that we are now into progress and decarbonization exponentially, not in a linear fashion.
And progress is, as a sum total, but also it's about progress in lots of different sectors as well.
It's lots of different sectors. It's lots of different stakeholders. So it's all the sectors going all the way from energy, transport, finance, buildings, land use, heavy industry. But it's also about all of the different levels, right? It's also about national governments, subnational governments, whether they be states or cities, provinces or regions. It's about the private sector. It's about the financial sector. So the fact is that there's no one that is actually exempt from responsibility or opportunity. And I think that's the piece that we often miss, because we're so used to saying, well, this is a huge responsibility that we must all shoulder. Yes, but we can all step into this opportunity.
And in terms of kind of the actions that you've heard about or you know about anyway, what's given you any cause for optimism, or what are you encouraged by when you see examples of people stepping up?
I'm encouraged by the fact that we are really beginning to understand that decarbonizing our economy is not a detriment to the increase in economic growth if you're a country, or to your profits if you're a corporation. That we have really understood that in this century, companies need to bring all of these factors together. They need to bring basically people, planet, and profit if they want to be viable businesses. The same concept if you're a government, that you do have to understand that all of these components need to be there, and that governments and corporates are beginning to work together much more closely.
In your work with Mission 2020, your aim is to help us bend the curve. Bend the curve. That's it. Thank you. On emissions by 2020. Are we on target? What do you think?
Well, first of all, let's say that because the universe is wise, 2020 is the political moment that all countries have agreed to under the Paris Agreement, but it's also the science moment. It is the moment that has been determined by science as being the last opportunity that we have to revert the trend that is currently increasing to a trend that begins to decrease. So whether you see it from a political and policy point of view, or whether you see it from the science point of view, 2020 looms large. Are we on track? Well, yes and no. We are definitely on track on energy. We, I think, are getting on track with transportation and with green finance. We're certainly not on track with land use. Agriculture, restoration of lands, reforestation, conservation, all of that family of issues is not yet on track. Neither is heavy industry.
Okay, all right. So that's your call to action, right?
Indeed.
Step up. Step up. Okay, Christiana Figueres, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Chandler Green, social media correspondent with Step Up World. So I went on earlier and asked you all to tell us why you care about climate change. So here are some of the answers we got. Hayden Brown from the United States wrote, "It is our future. It isn't our leaders, but it's the younger generations. I'm 14, so climate change is my future." Connie Raquelme from Chile wrote to us saying, "Because climate change affects all, especially the most vulnerable communities." And Suraj Patel told us, I don't want to face future kids asking me, why didn't you try? Wow, these are all strong messages, guys. Keep them coming. Tweet me at UN Foundation using the hashtags StepUpWorld and GCAS2018. Back to you, Rajesh.
Okay, Chandler, thank you very much indeed. We will join you later on in the program as well. Great to hear some voices from around the world there. And, here at the summit, some of the loudest voices who have been stepping up for greater climate action are mayors. There's about 4 dozen of them here at the summit. And now remember, more than half the world's population now lives in urban areas. So cities have a crucial role to play in creating sustainable livelihoods for their residents. And cities are also where a lot of issues overlap with climate: poverty, health, food, transport, energy. So not only are they at the heart of the problem, but they're massively creative in finding solutions as well. And they want to do more and work better as well. As I said, loads of them here at the summit to share their solutions and ideas to build cities that are safer, healthier, and more livable for everyone. And our friends at C40 Cities, well, they got a group of mayors together to send us a few videos about how they are stepping up on climate action.
As the executive mayor of the city of Tshwane, my resolve to tackle climate change head-on is unwavering.
We fully support the Paris Agreement, and we are working on
transformative climate action,
green solutions that tackle climate change and improve the quality of life for our citizens.
environmental education of the younger generation,
la reducción, reutilización y reciclado de la basura.
And the goal of net zero carbon buildings is increasingly within our grasp.
Tokyo will support C40's activity through striving toward a zero-emission Tokyo that produces no CO2 emissions.
ensuring all new buildings are carbon neutral by 2030.
De Buenos Aires nos comprometimos a lograr una ciudad más libre de emisiones de gases contaminantes para el 2050.
To create a CO2 neutral city, that's our political mission, and that's already what we're trying to do.
I've also committed to ensuring that the city's climate action is inclusive, fair and equitable, enhancing action on community-led projects that achieve major benefits for all of us.
We want to share our best ideas and solutions. We must go from great solutions locally to brilliant advances globally.
That's the reason why we're traveling to San Francisco, to exchange our experiences, to work strongly into the direction of fighting against climate change.
Participation at the Global Climate Action Summit will provide the opportunity for me to share the African perspective and draw aspirations from other regions.
I am traveling to San Francisco with this message. Only through the engagement of actors at all levels, international, national, local and individual, we will be able to counter climate change successfully.
We look forward to our participation in GCAS, as it is a unique opportunity to work hand by hand with other cities as we continue the journey toward making the world a better place for generations to come.
As Lord Mayor of Copenhagen, I'm determined to act, but we cannot do it alone.
As Mayor of Cape Town, I am determined to act, but we can't do it alone.
I am sending this message all of you.
Let's work together.
Sigamos trabajando juntos para cuidar nuestro planeta.
There we heard just a small selection of all the mayors around the world who are getting together to do more on climate action. Politicians taking steps, stepping up. And we've heard a lot of the conversations on social today about the need for politicians to do more. We heard from mayors there, but many leaders of developing countries are actually leading by example as well. Barbados is one of them. Earlier, I spoke to the island nation's Prime Minister, its first female Prime Minister, Mia Mottley. Let's take a listen to that interview. Prime Minister Mottley, welcome to Step Up World.
Thank you.
You almost couldn't join us in person for the summit because of extreme weather, hurricanes bearing down through the Caribbean and the east coast of the US, and we send our thoughts out to the people affected. But how much does it remind you or make you think of the fragility of the island of Barbados?
Well, as I said, it's real. For us, I had to call a meeting on Sunday evening with all of the government agencies to prepare. On Monday evening, I only got clearance from our Met Office that I could travel. And therefore, when I hear people speak in speculative terms, I smile because they're not feeling it. We are on the front line of the adjustment, even though we are really the least among the apostles in terms of contributing to climate change. And it's not just the hurricanes, it's our coral reefs, our coastal economies, our droughts. So this is real, and we need action now, not just on behalf of our governments, but our individuals, because many hands make light work.
And you know, this is Step Up World, and this is the Global Climate Action Summit, talking about action at the level that's below national governments.
That's right.
You're obviously a world leader. So how encouraged are you? What are your thoughts about this growing movement for climate action at all levels?
Well, I think that this is where it's ultimately going to make the defining difference at the level of people power. And that's what I said earlier this morning, that it's up to every individual who can do that little thing to save water, to save energy, to save the oceans, to save the world. We forget as governments sometimes that our actions in terms of policy are intended to change how people behave. And it's in that individual change of behavior that we will get the transformation. So I think that our duties are both here in terms of policy and legislation and treaties and allocation of funding, but it's also very much here at the level of people and getting people to make that individual difference from the smallest child to the oldest person.
And you're leading by example. On the stage, you made an announcement about being fossil-free. Just recap what that was.
Yes.
You're stepping up.
Yes, no, as a country, we've just come to government and we've indicated that by 2030, we want to be fossil fuel free as a country, because for us it's real and it's good morally, it's about justice, but it's also good economics for us. So that I think that if we can do it, it's not going to be easy, but we feel we can do it through the combined efforts of all of the players in our country to change the habits from the heavy reliance on fossil fuels. And also, we've also made, which I didn't announce, a commitment that from the 1st of April 2019, that we ban all single-use plastics and also styrofoam containers. Our maritime area, our oceans are 400 times the size of our land. So what happens in the oceans matters to us.
Okay, breaking news there on Step Up World. Thank you very much, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados.
Thank you very
Pleasure
much.
to talk to you.
And let's hope that everyone steps up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So just in case you missed it in that interview with Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, she gave us a bit of breaking news that they're also announcing a ban on single-use plastics. In a few minutes, we're going to be hearing from a youth advocate for whom plastics is also a major issue as well. That's the teen TV star Aiden Gallagher. But before that, let's hear from some more young people around the world, because we know that protecting the environment is a really, really big issue for young people. It's their future we're deciding on after all. The UN's youth envoy for the Secretary General, Jayathma Wickramanayake, well, she issued a call to action on social media for young people to share how they're taking on climate change today. And a lot of you guys sent us your videos already, so we're really grateful for that. Let's check out some of them now.
Take a short video of how you are tackling climate change in your community, in your city. Tell us what inspires you, what drives you to take action against climate change. Tell us why young people are uniquely powerful in taking climate change action.
I am Amira, an organizer from Puerto Rico.
I'm Ashley Graham, needlework craft artist and marketing manager in San Francisco, California.
I'm Jamie Margolin. I'm a 16-year-old high school student and the founder and executive director of Zero Hour.
This is JL Algo, Science Policy Associate of the Climate Reality Project Philippines, a proud Filipino and citizen of this earth.
My name is Celestina Carroll from Reno, Nevada.
مرحبا أنا اسمي قصاء العباسي من الأردن.
I'm Yeshna, a law student from Mauritius.
My name is Prosper Tony. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm from Ghana.
This is why the youth has the most important and powerful role in taking climate action. Not only do we have the creative and innovative skills and the enthusiastic attitude to creating solutions to the climate crisis, but we have the most to lose in a more extreme and unpredictable world.
I'm very much involved in digital advocacy now, where we use our social media to empower the youth.
والآن أنا عم أشتغل في بتطوير المشاريع الطاقة المتجددة وخصوصا طاقة الرياح والطاقة الشمسية.
I got it in my head that maybe I could start contributing by creating crafts.
Today, I contribute to my environment by composting.
From helping people start their own community campaigns to help Puerto Rico recover after Hurricane Maria, that's the kind of work that I like to do.
From being a climate researcher, technical writer, and public speaker, to being a policy lobbyist and citizen journalist. I do all of these things, hoping to make everyone understand that climate change is the single biggest threat to our very existence.
My work is mobilizing young people for climate action, capturing national and international attention around this issue from the perspective of youth.
I think that there's something that everyone can be doing, even if you're already doing a lot.
I want everyone to step up. The government, institution, every individual to step up to keep our environment clean. Climate change is a big issue.
This is my call to action.
This is my call to action.
This is my call to action.
This is my call of action. It's time to step up, world.
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 It is time to step up, world.
It's time to step up, world.
My name is Shyla. Step up, world.
Young people around the world. And what can you guys do to help beyond sending us more of your awesome videos like the one we saw? Let's welcome Aiden Gallagher, who's star of the kids' TV show Nicky, Ricky, Dicky and Dawn. He played Nicky, and is now starring as the character called Number 5 in the Netflix show The Umbrella Academy, which sounds intriguing. Aiden, you're also a youth advocate for the UN Environment Programme, and you're speaking here at the summit. So welcome to Step Up World.
Thanks for having me.
I want to first understand from you, what is the connection to climate change for you that drove you to speak out on behalf of the UN Environment Programme, and what do you hope to achieve in this role?
Well, for me, it started with surfing and a love of the ocean. Wow. And from there, I began to research environmental initiatives, which led to associations with different organizations and eventually UNEP.
Wow, okay, so you're kind of avid surfer, so you're a love of the ocean. What did you learn, from surfing? What did you kind of feel about it? What really made you think, well, I've got to do something to save this?
Well, the first thing that sort of interested me and that intrigued me was that you can't go surfing on a day that it rains because all the pollutants from the land are washed down into the waters. I never knew that. Nobody had ever told me that, but it's a common surfing thing, and once you learn it, it's like, why is there so much pollution? So I started researching it. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to tell more people, and I wanted to find solutions. So I just went from there. It started with a love of the ocean.
And you're not alone. Certainly amongst young people, climate change or the environment resonates very, very much with a lot of young people. Why do you think that is?
Well, as someone representing youth, I know that we're going to be affected the most by climate change. So I want to make sure that the world we're inheriting is one we can survive in. So it's extremely important that we all know and understand this topic.
And, we are talking about climate change and the environment. We're also talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. And, I'm wondering how much, you come at it from the point of view of oceans, but how much are you aware of the other issues that climate change affects, things like hunger, poverty, gender equality? How much does that drive you too?
Well, one of the great things about today's society is we have the advantage of social media. We have this huge stream of information coming in all at once. So any important topics, anything you run through, I scroll through, I find important issues, and I redistribute it through my social media. So I think that's a great way we can all learn new information.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll come to social media in a second, because we did tell people on social media that you were going to be joining us, and there were a lot of questions for you. So 1 second from now, we'll get one of those questions. But I just want to ask you, first of all, what kind of power do you think young people have to drive change to protect the planet? And what is your call to action for people watching? What do you want them to do to step up?
Well, today the youth have more power in their hands than they've ever had in the history of the world. You have the ability to share an environmental message in your pocket. So there is no excuse. Anyone can make a difference. So I think we have that as a huge advantage, and it's a way that we can all learn about these issues and learn simple solutions. If you make it too complicated, the youth will get lost in it, so you need to make sure that they understand it and they understand how it's affecting them and how they can solve it.
Okay, on that same point, I think let's get a question from social media. Let's take it over to Chandler, our social media correspondent.
Yes, Aiden, so we have a question in from Katie Putnam in Raleigh, North Carolina. She wants to know, what is your message for other young people who want to make a difference?
I think social media is obviously the easiest outlet that you can affect change, but also dietary, that's a huge impact. I learned that the animal agriculture business actually is, it's responsible for more than half of climate change. So on a personal level, you need to do your part, but also on a social level, you need to make sure people understand it.
And you're a vegan, right?
Yes.
Right, because of that?
A few years now, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, listen, Aiden, it's been great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us on Step Up World.
Thank you.
We must do all we can to avert the devastating climate change fueled tragedies. At the same time, we can and must address global air pollution challenges, both outdoor and indoor, that are driving climate change and damaging our health. One of the biggest issues I see that must be addressed is how people cook. Did you know 3 billion people depend on open fires and stoves that burn heavily polluting fuels like wood, charcoal, and cow dung to cook their food? Cooking this way kills nearly 4 million people per year and is a key driver of climate change. A woman preparing a meal for her family shouldn't have to worry about whether she's harming her and her children's health while she's cooking. We're making progress, but much more must be done to address this global crisis. The challenge is not small. I've been there. I've been cooking with women all around the world, and my profession relies on cook stoves. To me, it's amazing to see that we can be ending hunger and poverty at the same time that we are fighting climate change. But we can solve our air pollution and climate challenges together with cleaner energy, climate-friendly agriculture, improved disaster preparedness, and better access to clean cooking. Now it's time to step up, to take action, and work together to take on climate change today.
Now, what we eat and how we prepare our food are issues right at the heart of climate change. If you think about things like soil health, use of water, use of pesticides, and food wastage. Right here in San Francisco, there's a restaurant called The Perennial. Its executive chef and co-owner is Anthony Mayans. Hi, Anthony. Great to see you. He's channeling his passion for fighting climate change into cooking, and we're delighted to have you with us, Anthony. Now, there's a couple of stories going on here. There's two stories. The first is the bread. And then secondly, we're going to talk about food wastage. So tell us, this isn't just a normal loaf of bread. Why is that?
So this bread is made with kernza, which is a perennial grain that is newly developed by the Land Institute in Kansas. They've been doing natural breeding for about 15 years with a perennial wheatgrass to make it basically competitive with food, with annual wheat, and to make kind of a new whole way of farming that restores prairies that used to be perennial polycultures.
So perennial, what do you mean exactly by perennial when it comes to agriculture?
So that's the really important part, is that compared to annual wheat, which you plant every year, and in which case you plow up the ground every year, perennial plants just live from year to year. So it's really like farming with nature and kind of going back to natural systems that used to be in place before we started farming conventionally.
And the impact on climate change is?
Massive. It would be the same kind of concept as reforestation, except underground and with microbiology.
Okay, so that's the bread. And then also, you brought some ingredients. Just talk us through the ingredients you've got and tell us what you're going to do.
Sure, so I just have some fennel tops, typically discarded, but super delicious and fragrant, some fennel pollen, and I'm just going to make a quick fennel top salsa verde with some olive oil.
And the point is that we would probably throw that stuff away, the fennel tops.
Yeah, usually that ends up in the trash, but there's no reason for that.
All right, excellent, Anthony. Okay, I'm looking forward to doing the crucial test, which is the taste test later on. I'm going to leave you to get on with it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. We'll be back to you later on. Okay, so that was Anthony Mayans. We're going to be tasting that recipe he's making very soon. Before that, you saw a video from our friend, Chef Jose Andres, celebrity chef. He's also an ambassador for the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and he was telling us about clean cooking and how he believes we all need to step up our action to tackle climate change. We find ourselves in San Francisco, as we've been talking about a lot. It's inspired, the fact that the Global Climate Action Summit is here has inspired hundreds of other events around the city and around the world for about the last week. There were art installations to tree plantings to a march that brought more than 30,000 people onto the streets calling for bolder ambition. These events have helped turn the Global Climate Action Summit from a moment into a movement to inspire action across all sectors. Let's check out a little bit of what's been happening in San Francisco. So that's a little flavour of what has been going on around the city of San Francisco in the last few days. As many of you will know on social media today, much of the conversation around the summit is about the need for politicians and companies to do much more, complaints that they're not doing enough. We're going to hear now from the host of the summit, California Governor Jerry Brown. Remember, where we are. California is one of the largest economies in the world. Under Jerry Brown as governor, he's pledged that the state will cut greenhouse gas emissions to 40% below 1990 levels through things like clean transport and renewable energy. Earlier, I spoke to Governor Brown to talk to him about, how everyone everywhere can do more, and also to ask him what this summit hopes to achieve. Governor Brown, this summit showcases actions by regional and state governments, cities, businesses, communities, all others, what we call subnational action. How big a difference do you believe that all those actions can make to reducing global emissions?
They can make quite a lot of difference. We're making a major move on meeting the Paris commitments just at the subnational level. But it's big, very important, and everyone has to be part of climate change, climate action to forestall climate change. But of course, it's not enough. We need the national governments, we need science, we need research. We need a mobilization that exceeds anything to date. But if you look back from where we were 5 years ago, we've made tremendous progress, but it has to be accelerated.
And then, of course, after the Global Climate Action Summit, in a couple of weeks will be the UN General Assembly and Climate Week. And then, as we heard the UN Secretary General just a few days ago announce he'll be hosting a very high-level summit himself in 2019 at the level of heads of state. What do you hope this summit hands off to all those other moments that are at the national level?
Well, first of all, climate change, while it is an existential threat, is not experienced or perceived in the way other more immediate threats are. So this summit is a way to make more immediate the long-term and growing threat of climate change. So just the awareness, the educational impact is very big. Then the commitments that are made by states, provinces, universities, businesses, Starbucks, and all these other companies that are here. All of that is part of what we do, and then it has to build, because to get to zero emissions by 2045, which we have to get as close as we can, that's going to take this summit and this never-ending building momentum to inspire more climate action.
Now, under your leadership in California, you have pledged to cut the state's greenhouse gas emissions to, I believe, 40% below 1990 levels by 2030.
2030, yes.
You're trying to expand renewable energy, cleaner transport. At the same time, California has a very, very big, globally significant economy. What has convinced you that tackling climate change is good for California's economy? Why is California better off by protecting the planet?
Well, for one thing, the transition to clean energy is the pathway of economic prosperity and economic success. But you can't look to the 19th century to coal mines as your economic driver. You have to look to information, to solar, to battery technology, to smart grids, to efficient buildings, residential and commercial. So the economy is moving toward a green economy, a climate-compatible framework for economic activity. So if you're not doing that, you're going to be left behind. Number two, if we don't do that, and by we, I mean not just you and I, but the whole world, then the costs will be staggering. And the hardships of 100 years ago will be multiplied many times. So we're interested in driving down costs through innovation, and we're also interested in avoiding costs because of catastrophic global warming. So on both accounts, this is the wave of the future.
What about for businesses? We've seen that more and more businesses are kind of understanding the importance of sustainability in their supply chains and the way they do business. Why do you think they have seen the economic benefits, or what are the economic benefits that they've seen?
Well, they've seen the benefits because the science is clear. On the current path, we hit catastrophe. You hit 2, 3, 4 degrees centigrade increase. It's going to happen, whether it's 50 years or 75. The unique quality of climate change is it's not this city, this building changing, it's the entire atmosphere surrounding planet Earth. So you can't turn back. And knowing this to be the case, we have to take action. And that action will be the result of business. Business will have to do things. If they're contributing to the problem, they'll be stopped. Eventually, the political will be so strong that any contrary player will be prevented by force of law. So business knows they got to get with it. 5 years ago, they could deny it better. Even today, there are many businesses in denial. There's an article in the Investor Daily or some one of these business publications said California is destroying itself through this summit and through our goal for zero emissions. So there's still a very substantial body of opinion, including key business people who think climate action is crazy. Now, of course, we think they're crazy, and luckily the majority of businesses are following, I know to be the scientifically correct path forward.
And consumers are getting on board with that as well. So for people watching this, especially young people around the world, what is the one thing that you want them to do to step up?
Well, I want them, first of all, to learn about climate change. This is not just like avoiding a car accident or avoiding an infectious disease. Those are limited, very concrete. Climate change affects the atmosphere that surrounds the Earth and makes life possible. So we have to understand this unprecedented threat to all human creatures, all living creatures. So understand and then learn what one can do, living a more carbon-free lifestyle. And that's happening. People are moving from cars to bikes, finding the way they conduct themselves, what they do, what they buy, what they consume. So everyone's got to get on board, but we all are somewhat bit players in this large drama that we need the leaders of the world. And we're not there yet. If you take the American defense budget of $715 billion for defense, if you look at the $1 trillion global arms trade that is designed to kill people, now they may say it's defense, but it's certainly defense through killing men, women, and children and destroying the environment. That's going on at $1 trillion. If we could reduce that, just cut it by 25%, divert it toward financing important climate action, particularly in the third world, would all be better off.
Okay.
So the individual, learn about it, conduct your own life accordingly, which climate-friendly manner, but then also realize we're in this global threat that the global leaders, whether it's the global leader Russia or America or China or India, Brazil, South Africa, these big guys have to step up, and they're not stepping up enough. Some are doing more, some are doing nothing, some are outright hostile, like Mr. Trump.
Okay.
But
all right.
we got a long way to go.
We've got to leave it there. But Governor Brown, thank you very much for joining us.
Good. Glad to do it.
Here in San Francisco, California Governor Jerry Brown at the Global Climate Action Summit. Now, as part of our mission to bring the summit to the world and the world to the summit, we're showcasing incredible climate solutions that people have been sending us from different places. Earlier this year, my organization, the UN Foundation, launched our Eye on Climate campaign on Instagram, which asked people to send in images of climate solutions. We started by asking some professional photographers. We're going to meet one of them shortly. But then we asked all of you as well, and we received more than 700 pictures. Thank you for those. Keep them coming in. We put together a video of some of them. Check it out. That's our Eye on Climate campaign. Check it out on Instagram, and please send us your videos of climate solutions as well. The last picture you saw there was by our next guest, Christina Mittermeier. Now, for 25 years, she's been using the power of images to tell a story. She's a conservationist. She's a National Geographic photographer. She founded the prestigious International League of Conservation Photographers as a platform for photographers who are working on environmental issues. And she also co-founded the non-profit Sea Legacy to protect our oceans through storytelling. Oceans is, of course, something we've been hearing quite a lot about today. And in 2018, National Geographic named her as one of their Adventurers of the Year. She's speaking here at the summit, and I caught up with her earlier. Christina Mittermeier, you've spent the past 25 years documenting remote tribal communities and their connection to nature. Is there one story, one episode that really made you realize the power of photography to inspire action? I'd read something about you covering the Kayapo people in the Brazilian Amazon.
Absolutely. When you fly to the remote villages in the Amazon, people like the Kayapo, you fly over unbroken Amazonian rainforest for hours. And when you look down from a small airplane, you can see the vast territories that indigenous people hold stewardship over. When you look at the global map, indigenous people hold 17% of all the carbon on the planet in storage. So if we find a way through photography to tell the story of that stewardship, we can empower indigenous people to do what they've been doing for thousands of years.
So storytelling, but what about, to inspire action? I mean, well, storytelling is one thing. And as a former journalist, I always understood that the role of the storyteller is to expose the problem, if you like, and then someone else's role to make the change. But how do you try and go one step further and be that change or inspire that change?
For 25 years of doing this, for the longest time, I try to be a journalist. I try to be unbiased. And in the front lines of the natural world, where I've spent most of my career, seeing the devastation that's happening, I chose that I needed to be an active journalist. And I decided to take it one step further. The way that we do it today is through social media. I am able, through my social media channels, to have a conversation with thousands, if not millions of people every day. And the way that we inspire action is by getting people to stand up for the kind of planet that we want to live in, just to speak up.
Now, your new book, Amaze, is about how to navigate a sustainable existence. It includes this idea of enoughness, how a deeper connection with the planet could help individuals feel a sense of fulfillment. Just explain a little bit about enoughness. How do you live that in your own life?
It was spending time with the Kayapo people when it first dawned on me that remote communities don't have money. They just have never had it. So it forced me to start thinking about my own relationship with money, the way that I compare myself to others based on how much I make and what kind of job I have, where do I live. And I started realizing that it doesn't matter where it is, indigenous communities have this sense of fulfillment, of being enough because they belong to a community, because they observe their traditions, they have pride in their language, their customs, their song, whatever it is. And I started thinking, is there a lesson here that we can learn for ourselves? Instead of trying to measure our happiness through stuff and material wealth, try to dig deeper into the other aspects of life that make life worth living. And that is having a deeper relationship with each other and with nature, doing purposeful work that makes you want to get up in the morning to do what you do, and just being generous and kind. And what I like about enoughness is that it's the solution for too muchness. And it's something that is a personal metric that we all can practice, just like we practice yoga.
Okay, that's very inspiring. Very quickly before we go, we're going to take it over to the social media station and get our Chandler, our social media correspondent, to give you a question that's come to us for you from social media.
Yes, so we have a question from Instagram. Maria Mendez wants to know, do you see evidence of climate change affecting ecosystems in all of your travels?
You know, over the past 25 years, climate change has become like a slow-moving tsunami. We see it happening in slow motion, and it's happening everywhere. If you go to a place like the Arctic, it's very evident. You know, the ice is becoming unstable. It's dangerous to walk on the ice. But in other places like the Amazon, just the precipitation patterns are changing. In places like India and Africa, what used to be a predictable rainfall is now unpredictable and uncertain. We're seeing it everywhere in small and big measures.
Okay, Christiana Mittermeier, it's been really, really interesting talking with you. Thank you for joining us on Step Up World.
Thank you for having me, and let's step it up.
Okay, so we spoke to our chef earlier on. It's time to do the crucial test, which is the taste test. Anthony, I'm back. So just to remind me what we have here.
So we have some kernza sourdough bread and fennel top salsa verde.
So this is the bread that's made with a perennial grain, so it's much better for climate change. And then this is salsa verde made with fennel tops that people would normally throw away. Maybe you want a slice? Want to share with us?
Of course, yeah, cheers.
Wow, that's actually really, really tasty. That's really, really good. Okay, I could actually carry on eating that, but I actually have a show to close here. Anthony, thank you very much indeed. Excuse me for talking while I'm eating, but I need to tell you, that's about all we have time for today on Step Up World. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments and questions, and thanks to all our guests that we've had on the show here today, backstage here at the Moscone Center in San Francisco during the Global Climate Action Summit. Great bread. We'll be back here tomorrow for the second day of the summit, once starting before the main stage action happens, and then again for another full hour picking up after it finishes. So check our social for the times. And also please do watch this show again on Facebook Watch. It's going to be living there now. And we'll be pushing out a lot of the content on social as well. We want as many people to know what's been going on here. We want as many people to know about the huge and exciting global movement that there is around the world for greater climate action. It's time to do more for our planet. It's time to step up world. I'm Rajesh Merchandani. Thanks very much for watching.
other parts of the country. So it's really clear that protecting agricultural land is a very important tool in our toolbox. There's several other programs. Briefly, one of them supports farmers as they reduce their use of water, make their water use more efficient. It also supports them as they reduce the energy that they need to pump irrigation water. And that program supports farmers